Sound checks can be really stressful. A lot of times you've been traveling all day, you're tired, you're grumpy, you haven't eaten enough. You show up at a venue, the gear is funky, maybe the guitar amps aren't what you asked for, the drums have funky heads on them and they sound horrible, and you've got to just deal, and it's what it is. So you can be, sometimes you're dealing with musicians who are grumpy, and you're also dealing with artists, and these artists are temperamental and they're allowed to be, and you've got to remember that you're dealing with people who are sensitive. They're putting their heart and soul out when they're performing, hopefully. And you've got to take that into consideration. It's an emotional world we work in, and working with musicians, they're emotional people. They're playing, from inside. It's very sensitive stuff. So when you show up at a venue and you're running a sound check, it's really, really important to make sure that it's all about the musician. It's not about the engineer. It's about them making themselves feel comfortable so that when they play, they can express themselves and not be distracted by something or not feel like they're not hearing properly, something that's very important to be, to hear. I think it's important to run a sound check in an orderly fashion, because it can get really confusing. You can have the drummer tuning his drums while the pianist is practicing a part, and the bass player is trying to work on his sound, and the guitar player is plugging stuff in, and it sounds like it's just crazy on stage. Sometimes you've got to stop everybody and just say, okay, stop, I want to hear only the drums. Everybody else just take 5 and let me just do this. And give each musician their time to get their sound together. On stage with the monitor engineer, or if you're mixing monitors from front of house, that you have time to work with them to get it right. And also for front of house, that you have time to work on your sounds to make it feel balanced. So many times the monitor engineer will not even get up off their chair and walk around the stage and listen to the wedges that are in front of the musicians. And the musicians are like, I can't. Sometimes musicians have a hard time expressing themselves. They don't know how to articulate what it is that they're not hearing or what's bothering them. Sometimes it's just a hard thing to come up with the right words. You got to get off your butt and go out there and stick your ear in the monitor and listen and say, okay, what is it that's bothering you? Oh, let me hear that. Okay, then go back, because when you're back at a monitor desk, you're not hearing what they're hearing. The stage is a totally different animal than side stage. And you've got to take that into consideration. They're like out there in the wild world, and you're sitting back there in your comfy little corner. You don't really know what they're feeling out there. So you've got to get out there and you've got to communicate. And I know that time and time again when I'm working with monitor engineers du jour, I can tell the ones that are really on it and that are great, and that makes my job easy because I don't have to worry, because they're out there, they're talking to the band, they're communicating, they're listening, they're adjusting, and they're paying attention, they're watching. So many engineers think, oh, monitors, that's, set it and leave it. And man, it's the hardest job actually, because you're dealing with the musicians, you're dealing with the artists, they're right there. And if they look over and they need something and you're like looking off someplace else, hello, you've lost them, and they're gonna get angry and they're gonna get frustrated. And yeah, you hear people say, oh, that person's a real jerk because, well, you know what, if you're not paying attention and giving them what they need, they're gonna get jerky at you because they're performing, they're out there, they're exposed. And so it's a crucial position. I think it's always ironic to me to see that time and time again, the front of house guy is the one with the big job and is always the most experienced, and they always put the truck driver or the guy who doesn't, on the monitors. I always think that's so backwards. It's like, wow, you're putting the person with the least experience out there dealing with the star, I mean, good for them that they get to be that close to these great musicians, but if they don't know what they're listening to or who they're working with or what to look for, signs, they're lost. The musicians are lost, and that's Yeah, I just find that that's very, very important. If I'm in a situation where the monitor engineer is just not happening and he's just spaced out, I'll run up from front of house and get on the monitors and talk to the musician, say, okay, what do you need? And just, okay, excuse me, you gotta step aside, let me fix this. Because these guys are trying to play some music. You wanna make some music, you know? I've done it during the middle of a show where I've had to leave front of house position and run up to the monitor board and fix the monitors, because the band is just like, help, help, and then, you know, the monitor guy's, you know, off in space somewhere, just has no idea what is going on. So I've done that many times where I've had to run out, leave my front of house position and try to kind of gain control of the stage. But hopefully, if you can communicate with the monitor engineer and tell them, look, you know, sometimes I have to go to the monitor engineer and say, okay, you know, this particular musician needs more attention than another one. Just remember that. So during, you know, during sound check and during the show, just keep an eye on that person, because they're going to be needing more stuff, say, than, you know, one of the other guys. And, you know, I think monitors is not the second position. I think it's equally as important as the front of house.